It's a recorded speech, by the way.
He said in that recorded speech that the leader would fight the revolt until the last man standing. Considering what we've seen on the streets of Tripoli this evening, the airstrikes being used against the protesters, are they living to their word?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And I said earlier, now it's like a wounded wolf. Okay? They're just gonna go after anything in front of them. They have really no future after this.
Okay, Dr. Osama, thank you very much for talking to us on Al Jazeera. We can talk to our reporter now, Nazanin Mushiri. She's on the line from Jaji, and that's in Tunisia, in Tunisia, and that's near the border with Libya. Nazanin, what's a reaction from Tunisia?
Well, the Tunisians are taking what is happening in Libya extremely seriously. Where I am is pretty close to the border. Now, the border with Libya on the coastline is only about 200 kilometers from the Libyan capital, Tripoli. And the military around this area are on a state of high alert right now because thousands of Tunisians have been fleeing the violence. Around 50,000 Tunisians live in Libya. The latest we heard from the foreign ministry source here in Tunisia is that they've lost contact with the Tunisian ambassador in Libya. They haven't been able to get in touch with the ambassador, and they're trying to do so at the moment. There have been talks with the foreign ministry, the Ministry of Interior, and also the Defence Ministry here, talking about this situation, because not only is there the problem of Tunisians getting out of Libya, but also the potential for Libyans themselves coming across the border, because they don't need visas to come across. And if these reports are true about warplanes and helicopters firing on people, there are going to be a lot of injured people, a lot of people wanting to get out of Libya, and the first place they will come is here in Tunisia, because not only is it easy for them to get across, but also it will be easy for them to get to Europe as well.
All right, Nazanin Mushiri, bringing us the situation from Tunisia. Thank you. Well, 2 Libyan military jets have landed on the island of Malta, along with a number of helicopters. And Barbara Sarah's in London with more on that. Barbara.
Doreen, yes, reports say the Air Force officers who piloted them had refused to take part in military operations against protesters. Well, Al Jazeera's Carl Stange-Navarra is in Malta, and he told us that the pilots are now seeking asylum.
Well, I can confirm that the 2 senior officers from the Libyan Air Force, identified so far as colonels, have actually asked the Maltese government to be granted political asylum. Now, the 2 colonels have unexpectedly arrived, an unauthorized landing in Malta, shortly after 3 o'clock local time in the afternoon. Apparently, from the story they told the Maltese authorities as soon as they were surrounded when they landed in the Malta's International Airport, that they were ordered to bombard the protesters in the area of Benghazi. They were together with a squadron, and so there were only 2 of the aircraft in this squadron who decided not to follow the orders and to reroute themselves towards Malta and ask for protection over here. They have been interrogated for quite some time. Verifications, however, are still underway to determine the real identity of these 2 men who claim to be senior officers in the rank of colonels in the Air Force in Libya, but they have confirmed that they belong to the Oknabri Nafe air base just outside of Tripoli. Their platoon, or their squadron, was actually flown out from Tripoli. They landed in Benghazi this morning and then ordered to go and bombard. They decided to abandon the operation whilst they were at only 500 feet from the ground, so they were seeing the crowds quite clearly. What I can say also is that during their interrogation, these 2 men have apparently supplied authorities with classified information with regards to the activities by the Libyan military at this point in time.
Carl Stange-Navarra there from Malta. Well, many European countries are trying to get their nationals out of Libya, and we know that several British citizens have already been evacuated from the country to try to escape the growing violence. Passengers arriving at Manchester Airport described their experiences.
been quite frightening. We've had gunfire in the night. Probably not as bad as the news reports said, but I was very glad to get away. There's lots of people who haven't got away yet. My husband's still there.
I can't tell you. It's really scary. Really scary.
Well, as those people made their way back home to Britain, there have been more anti-Gaddafi protests in London. Hundreds of demonstrators have once again gathered outside the Libyan embassy in the centre of the capital. And there are reports that embassy staff themselves joined the crowd. Earlier, police had attempted to keep the protesters across the road from the diplomatic post. But dozens of them crossed that road anyway, and they staged a noisy demonstration directly in front of the building. One man was even able to climb onto the balcony and remove the Libyan flag. Tim Friend was there.
Well, several hundred demonstrators were gathered outside the Libyan embassy in London. They sense that events are now reaching a turning point in Libya. And earlier, a demonstrator managed to climb onto the balcony of the embassy behind me here and replace the flag of Colonel Gaddafi's government with the Libyan independence flag. There was great jubilation, but since then embassy staff have come out and put the Gaddafi flag back on the flagpole. There are reports that earlier some of the embassy staff had joined the demonstrators, although the ambassador himself, who we spoke to earlier on the telephone, said that he was staying in post. He said he had work to do, although he wouldn't discuss the matter of his allegiance to Colonel Gaddafi. Of course, some of his colleagues around the world have decided to quit their posts. I'm joined now by some Libyans who are here in London. You've managed to speak to some relatives back home. What are they telling you?
I spoke to them early this morning. It was 8:30 local time Tripoli, and the only things I could get out of them was that there were gunshots and that there were, cars honking all night. I contacted a friend. She spoke to her parents, and they're closer to the Green Square. So I guess around like 1 o'clock at night, there were rumors that Muammar had left. So there were people celebrating, and then there were the big gunshots, and then the cars and the Land Cruisers, and then early this morning they were saying that there were helicopters zooming around. But in the morning they had not confirmed that they were being shot at. But later on, there were confirmation coming out from Twitter and from people on the eastern side that would go to the Egyptian borders and get it out, that they are shooting at people from helicopters and the Land Cruisers, which are known for government officials and stuff, that they were shooting just, like drive-by shooting gang style at anyone in their way. It doesn't matter.
One of the demonstrators there outside the Libyan embassy in London, speaking to AlJazeera's Tim Friend. Events in Libya obviously having a big impact across Europe. Well, that is it for me and the rest of the team here in London. Now let's go back to Doreen in Doha.
Barbara, thank you very much. Well, we can now take a look at some other news in brief that's happening around the region. And Bahrain's king, that's King Hamad, he's ordered the release of Shiite